Relationships, huh?
Yeah.
They can be quite a roller coaster sometimes, can't they? I mean, we all want that feeling of being connected, right? But
Yeah.
it's like sometimes we're not even speaking the same
And
language.
it's true.
So, you know what? You sent over some super interesting stuff about this lecture by this psychiatrist, Evangelos Katsioulis is his name.
Yeah.
And we're going to really like dive deep into it and see
Well,
what kind of golden nuggets of wisdom he's got for us.
yeah, Katsioulis is great because he um brings this really unique perspective.
Okay.
He combines like the psychology side of things
Hmm.
with evolutionary history.
Oh, wow.
And it's really
So we're
interesting.
going way back, like primal instincts
Absolutely.
that draw us to connect with each other.
Yeah, his whole thing is that we are wired for relationships. Like literally, it's
Okay.
in our DNA.
Okay. Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
So think about it this way. Early humans, they're living in these small tribes, right?
Right.
And they had to rely on each other for everything.
Food, shelter.
Protection,
Okay.
food gathering, everything. Like
Yeah.
their survival depended on those social
So the
bonds.
survival of the fittest.
Exactly.
Together.
Together, exactly.
Interesting.
And the fascinating thing is like that instinct,
Yeah.
that need for connection, it's still there today.
Oh, for sure. It is. I mean, that's like such a human thing
Yeah.
to want to belong to something bigger than ourselves.
Mhm.
But he takes it even a step further, right? It's not
Mhm.
even just about like existing,
Right.
it's about thriving.
Exactly. And that we have a right to seek that out.
Okay.
We have a right to be happy to seek fulfillment. And a huge part of that is, you guessed it, relationships.
Of course.
They play a big part in that.
Yeah. It's so true, though, right? Like
Yeah.
deep down, we all just want to feel truly connected and fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I love that he's saying, like, it's not selfish
Yeah.
to actually want that from our relationships.
Exact.
So we've been talking about connecting with others, but I'm curious about what he has to say about like the relationship we have with ourselves.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. And Katsioulis really emphasizes that.
Okay.
He says that self-awareness and really accepting yourself
Right.
is the foundation for every single relationship in your life.
That makes sense. But how do you actually find that when like
Yeah.
life is so busy and we're always like on the go?
Exactly. And he talks about that too. Like,
Okay.
it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of life. And he asks this question.
He says, but if we are actually absent from our lives, how can we ever manage to be happy?
Wow.
Right.
That's such a good question because if we're not even present in our own lives,
Yeah.
how can we show up for anyone else?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
It's like trying to make a meal for somebody when you haven't even eaten anything yourself.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's all about taking the time to really understand ourselves.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? What can we do to build a stronger relationship with ourselves?
Well, he talks about the importance of self reflection, taking the time to think about what makes us feel fulfilled. What are our values? What are we even passionate about?
So, like remembering who we are,
Yes, exactly. Rediscovering that. And a huge part of that is accepting it all.
like the good and the bad, the things we're proud of, and the things that we maybe want to hide.
Right.
It's about embracing all of it. And then we
Yeah.
can go out and be our authentic selves in all of our relationships.
So it's almost like sometimes we have this like version of ourselves that we present to the world
Yes.
that we think is like, more acceptable or
And
whatever,
absolutely.
but it's not the full picture.
Yeah. And Katsioulis would say that's not going to lead to true connection.
Right. Because it's exhausting to
Yes,
try to keep up a front like that all the time.
it is. And when we start from a place of self awareness and acceptance,
Yeah.
we're less likely to try and change other people.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah,
Because we're not trying to fit them into this box
exactly.
that we've created.
It's about appreciating that individuality.
Yes. And realizing that we're all just a work in progress.
Always growing, always
But
changing.
here's the thing, right? We're all kind of messy and complicated.
Yeah,
And that's going to lead to like disagreements, even in the base relationships.
totally. Disagreements are going to happen.
Right. So, how do we deal with those in a way that like actually brings us closer instead of pushing us apart?
Well, Katsioulis talks about communication being key,
Okay.
but not just any communication. It's got to be like real empathetic communication,
Okay.
like really trying to understand where the other person is coming
It's
from.
about really listening. Uh,
Exactly. Not just waiting for your turn to talk,
right.
but actually trying to get inside their head and see it from their perspective.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Exactly. It's about creating that safe space where you can both be honest without feeling judged.
And remembering that you're on the same team.
Yes, exactly. You're working together towards a common goal.
Okay, so how do you do that when you're, like, in the heat of the moment?
Well, one thing Katsioulis talks about is taking responsibility,
Okay.
like owning up to your own mistakes and your part in the situation.
It's so easy to blame the other person, right?
It is, but it's so much more effective to say, "Hey, you know what? I messed up there. I'm sorry."
It takes courage, though, to do that.
It does, but it shows that you're really trying and it builds trust.
So sometimes it's not even about, like, finding the perfect solution.
Right, sometimes it's about agreeing to disagree
Okay.
and respecting each other's boundaries and differences.
It's like a dance, right?
It's a constant back and forth.
Learning as you go.
Exactly, and the more you practice, the better you get at it.
This has been so interesting. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
So for our listeners out there who are trying to navigate their own relationships,
Yeah.
what's, like, the one thing they should take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it all starts with ourselves.
What does that mean?
It means that we have to understand ourselves, accept ourselves, even love ourselves
Yeah.
before we can truly connect with someone else.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup,
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
fill yourself up first.
and it's not about being perfect.
No, not at all. It's about embracing the
The
imperfections,
messiness.
all of it,
Mm.
because that's what makes us human.
And that's where the real connection happens.
Exactly. It's in those messy, authentic moments.
Well said. This has been such a great conversation. Thanks for diving deep with me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And everyone listening out there, remember, you're not alone in this thing. Keep showing up for yourselves and keep nurturing those connections that matter most. We'll catch you in the next deep dive.